A man decided to bring his wife with him to a large convention in Chicago. After they checked into their hotel and were shown to their room, he told her, "You relax here while I register. I'll be back in about an hour." His wife lay down on the bed, but just then an elevated train passed by so close to the window that the room shook violently, tossing her right off the bed. Thinking it was just a fluke, she climbed back into bed, only for the train to pass again, shaking the room so hard that she was thrown to the floor. Annoyed, she called the front desk and asked for the manager. The manager, a bit skeptical, came up to the room. The wife insisted that the shaking was real and happening every time the train went by. "Just lie down here on the bed," she said. "You'll be thrown right to the floor." So the manager skeptically lay down on the bed. Just then, the husband walked in and looked at the scene with a raised eyebrow. "What?" he asked. "Are you doing here?" The manager, caught off guard, calmly replied, "Would you believe I'm waiting for a train?" A young woman went to confession looking a bit flustered. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," she said. The priest gently replied, "Go ahead, my child, confess your sins and be forgiven." She took a breath and said, "Last night, my boyfriend and I, well, we made passionate love 7 times. The priest paused, clearly deep in thought. After a moment, he said, "All right. I want you to go home, squeeze 7 lemons into a glass, and drink the juice." The young woman blinked. "Will that cleanse me of my sins?" He smiled and said, "No, but it might wipe that grin off your face." A young woman went to confession, looking a bit flustered. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," she said. The priest gently replied, "Go ahead, my child, confess your sins and be forgiven." She took a breath and said, "Last night, my boyfriend and I, well, we made passionate love 7 times. The priest paused, clearly deep in thought. After a moment, he said, "All right. I want you to go home, squeeze 7 lemons into a glass, and drink the juice." The young woman blinked. "Will that cleanse me of my sins?" He smiled and said, "No, but it might wipe that grin off your face." A man walked into a supermarket unaware that his zipper was down. As he moved through the aisles, a female cashier noticed him and, with a slight smirk, said, "Your barracks door is open." Confused, the man continued shopping, unsure of what she meant. As he was nearing the end of his shopping, another man approached him and said, "Your fly is open." Feeling embarrassed, the man quickly zipped up and finished his errands. At checkout, he purposely chose the same line as the cashier who had made the earlier comment. He decided to have a little fun, so when it was his turn, he jokingly asked, "So when you saw my barracks door open, was there a soldier standing at attention?" The cashier paused, then responded with a grin, "No, but I did see a retired soldier sitting on a couple of old duffel bags." One Sunday morning, Satan appeared before a small-town congregation. Everyone started screaming and running for the front church door, trampling each other in a frantic effort to get away. Soon, everyone was gone, except for an elderly gentleman who sat calmly. Satan walked up to the man and said, "Don't you know who I am?" The man replied, "Yep, sure do." Satan asked, "Aren't you going to run?" "Nope, sure ain't," said the man. Perturbed, Satan asked, "Why aren't you afraid of me?" The man calmly replied, "Been married to your sister for over 48 years. A man went to his doctor for his annual checkup, looking a little worried. The first thing the doctor asked was if anything was bothering him. "Well, Doc, to be honest, yes," the patient replied. "I've been getting so forgetful lately. I can't remember where I parked my car, whether I've already written that letter, or even where I'm going. And when I get there, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. I'm at my wit's end, Doc. What can I do about it?" The doctor paused for a moment, then smiled and said, "Simple. Pay me in advance." Now that's one way to deal with forgetfulness. A 72-year-old man had one true love, fishing. One day, while sitting in his boat, he heard a voice say, "Pick me up." He looked around, confused, but saw no one. Then he heard it again, "Pick me up." He glanced down into the water and spotted a frog floating on the surface. He asked, "Are you talking to me?" The frog replied, "Yep, I'm talking to you. Pick me up, kiss me, and I'll turn into the most beautiful woman you've ever seen." I'll make all your friends jealous because I'll be your bride." The man stared at the frog for a moment, reached over, gently picked it up, and placed it in his shirt pocket. The frog, a bit annoyed, said, "What are you doing? Didn't you hear me? I said, kiss me and I'll be your beautiful bride." The man opened his pocket, looked at the frog, and said, "Hey, at my age, I'd rather have a talking frog. With age comes wisdom." A young guy got a job as a trainee in a supermarket. On his first day at work, he arrived on time, eager to make a fresh beginning. The manager welcomed him with a warm smile and, giving him a broom, said, "Your first job will be to sweep the floor." The young guy protested, "But I'm a college graduate." "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that," said the manager. "Here, hand me the broom, I'll show you how to sweep the floor." Steve complained to his friend Al that lovemaking with his wife was becoming routine and boring. "Get creative, buddy, break up the monotony. Why don't you try playing doctor for an hour?" "Sounds great," Steve replied, "but how do you make it last for an hour?" "Hell, just keep her in the waiting room for 45 minutes. A friend asked a gentleman how it is that he never married. Replied the gentleman, "Well, I guess I just never met the right woman. I guess I've been looking for the perfect girl." "Oh, come on now," said the friend. "Surely you have met at least one girl that you wanted to marry." "Yes, there was one girl, once. I guess she was the one perfect girl. The only perfect girl I really ever met. She was just the right everything. I really mean that she was the perfect girl for me." "Well, why didn't you marry her?" asked the friend. "She was looking for the perfect man," he said. Father and mother are making love in the bedroom. Mother is on top of father. Suddenly, the son enters the bedroom. Everyone is embarrassed, of course. The next morning, the mother takes the little boy aside and says, "I'll tell you about what you saw yesterday. You know, Dad has a big belly, and that's why Mom sometimes sits on top of that belly to push it flat." The little boy says, "But Mama, that does not make any difference." "Oh, no?" the mom asks. "No," says the little boy. "When you go to work, the neighbor comes and she puts herself on her knees for Dad and she blows his belly up again." While examining his female patient, the doctor says, "Your heart, lungs, pulse, and blood pressure are all perfect. Now let's check that one thing that always seems to get you ladies into trouble." The woman begins to undress. Doctor, quickly stopping her, "No, no, please, just show me your tongue." A man asked his wife, "What would you like for your birthday?" She thought for a moment, then smiled and said, "I'd like to be 21 again." The man nodded, pleased with her request. Early the next morning, he went all out. He took her to a luxurious spa for a full day of pampering. Afterward, they went to a fancy restaurant where she was treated to a 5-course meal. He topped it off with a bottle of champagne and then whisked her off to a live concert of her favorite band. After the concert, they danced the night away at an exclusive nightclub. The man was exhausted, but his wife seemed to be having the time of her life. They finally returned home, and as she collapsed on the couch, he leaned over and asked, "So, how was it being 21 again?" She looked up a little disoriented and sighed. "I meant my energy level, you fool." 4 guys have been going on the same fishing trip for many years. A few days before the group's annual departure date, John's new wife puts her foot down and tells him he isn't allowed to go. John's fishing buddies are very upset that he can't go, but what can they do? 2 days later, the 3 get to the camping site and find John sitting there, his tent up, firewood gathered, and dinner roasting on the fire, and of course drinking a cold beer. "ZTF, John? How long have you been here, and how did you talk your missus into letting you go?" "Well," said John, "I've been here since last night. Yesterday evening, I was sitting in my recliner when my wife came up behind me, put her hands over my eyes, and asked, 'Guess who?' I pulled her hands off, and there she was wearing nothing but a see-through nightie. She took my hand and led me into the bedroom, where she'd lit candles and put rose petals all over the room. You see, she's been reading 50 Shades of Grey. On the bed, she had handcuffs and ropes. She told me, with a wink and a sly smile, to tie her up and cuff her to the bed. So I did." John and his wife were getting ready for bed. As she stood in front of a full-length mirror, she let out a heavy sigh, inspecting her reflection closely. "You know, love," she said, her voice tinged with sadness. "When I look in the mirror, I see an old woman. My face is lined with wrinkles. My boobs are sagging. My bum looks enormous. My legs are chubby, and my arms are flabby. It's depressing." Turning to John, she asked, "Be honest but kind. Tell me something positive to make me feel better about myself." John paused, clearly deep in thought. Then, with a gentle smile, he said softly, "Well, your eyesight is perfect." A husband and wife, both in their 60s, were approaching their 40th wedding anniversary. Knowing his wife's love for antiques, the husband surprised her with a stunning old brass oil lamp. As she unwrapped the gift, a genie suddenly appeared, bowing gracefully and thanking them. He then offered to grant each of them one wish. The wife, thrilled by the opportunity, wished for an all-expenses-paid first-class around-the-world cruise with her husband. Shazam! In an instant, she held tickets for the luxurious journey, complete with extravagant side trips, fine dining, shopping sprees, and more. The husband, pondering his own wish, decided he wanted a female companion 30 years younger than himself. The genie grinned knowingly, and with a swift shazam, the husband was suddenly 93 years old. One afternoon, a curious visitor arrived at the farm, eager to learn the secret behind their longevity. He found the old man chopping wood, shirtless, his sweat-covered physique looking decades younger than his age. Introducing himself, the visitor exclaimed, "I hear you're 1 or 2 years old." "That's right," the old man replied with a warm smile. "Incredible. You look amazing." The visitor marveled. "Thank you," said the old man modestly. "Do you mind if I ask how I've stayed so healthy at this age?" The old man interjected knowingly. "Help me carry this wood to the house and I'll tell you." The visitor eagerly agreed, and together they hauled the wood inside. Once they were settled, the old man began to share his story. "You see," he said, "I've been married for 7. Early on in our marriage, the wife and I made a little agreement. Whenever we had an argument, the one who lost would have to run 5 kilometers. He chuckled before continuing, "We've had a pretty typical marriage, so I've been running 5 kilometers almost every day for the past 7. That's why I'm in such good shape." The visitor, still puzzled, asked, "But if that's the case, how is your wife in such great shape too?" The old man grinned mischievously. "Oh, that's simple. She usually runs after me to make sure I finish the whole 5. A married man was having an affair with his secretary. One afternoon, unable to resist their desires, they decided to sneak off to her house. After an indulgent few hours, they both dozed off, only to wake up around 8 p.m. panicking. The man quickly got dressed and came up with a plan. He turned to the woman and said, "Take my shoes outside and rub them in the grass and dirt." Although puzzled, she did as he asked. Once his shoes were sufficiently scuffed, he slipped them on, kissed her goodbye, and headed home. As soon as he walked through the door, his wife confronted him. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "Darling," he said, attempting to sound sincere, "I won't lie to you. I've been having an affair with my secretary. I fell asleep at her house and didn't wake up until—" His wife looked him up and down, her gaze landing on his shoes. "You liar," she snapped. "You've been playing golf." There was a Packers fan with a really crappy seat at Lambeau. Looking with his binoculars, he spotted an empty seat on the 50-yard line. Thinking to himself, what a waste, he made his way down to the empty seat. When he arrived at the seat, he asked the man sitting next to it, "Is this seat taken?" The man replied, "This was my wife's seat. She passed away. She was a big Packers fan." The other man replied, "I'm so sorry to hear of your loss. May I ask why you didn't give the ticket to a friend or a relative?" The man replied, "They're all at the funeral." 2 statues were standing in the park. One, a man, and one, a woman. They had been facing each other across a pathway for 100 years. One day an angel comes down from the sky and with a single gesture brings the two to life. The angel tells them, as a reward for being so patient through 100 blazing summers and dismal winters, you have been given life for 30 minutes to do what you've wished to do the most. He looks at her. She looks at him. They go running behind the shrubbery. The angel waits patiently as the bushes rustle and giggling ensues. After 15 minutes, the two return, out of breath and laughing. The angel looks at his watch. You have 15 minutes left. Would you care to do it again? He asks her. Shall we? She eagerly replies. Oh, yes, let's, but we should change positions. This time I'll hold the pigeon down and you shit on its head. She's lying on her back on the examination couch, her blouse undone, and looks up into his eyes and says, "Kiss me, doctor." "No, I can't," replied the doctor. "Oh, go on. Kiss me, she insists. "No, it's out of the question," said the doctor. "Why's that?" She asks disappointedly. "It's completely against ethical rules," he replies. "In fact, strictly speaking, I shouldn't even be having sex with you." A blonde spots a stunning stallion and instantly decides she has to ride it. She may not have any riding experience, but she's determined to give it a try. She climbs onto the horse's back and soon finds herself galloping through a lush green meadow, feeling the wind in her hair. The freedom is exhilarating. But then the horse picks up speed again, and her lack of experience starts to show. Before she knows it, she's barely hanging on. The horse breaks into a full run, and the blonde is flailing, nearly falling off with her head just inches from the ground. In a panic, she screams for help, and then calmly Frank, the Walmart doorman, strolls up, takes one look, and unplugs the ride.
There were 5 people aboard an airplane that was experiencing engine trouble and about to crash. The problem? There were only 4 parachutes. As everyone tried to figure out who should get the parachutes, the first person stood up and said, "I'm the smartest person to ever walk the earth. The world cannot afford to lose me." Without waiting for a response, he grabbed a parachute and jumped out of the plane. The second person said, "I'm a mother, and my family depends on me. I can't let them down." She quickly took a parachute and leapt out as well. The third person declared, "I'm the head of my household and the sole breadwinner. My family's survival depends on me." With that, he grabbed a parachute and jumped too. Now, only 2 people remained, a 65-year-old man and a 12-year-old boy. The old man turned to the boy and said, "Son, I've lived a full life. You're young and have your whole future ahead of you. You take the last parachute." The boy looked at him and smiled. "Don't worry, sir. There are still 2 parachutes left." The old man was puzzled. "How's that possible?" The boy chuckled and said, "Well, the guy who thought he was the smartest person on earth? He grabbed my backpack." Ever get a call from a telemarketer and wish you could just make them disappear? You're not alone. Here are 10 hilarious ways to take matters into your own hands and get rid of those pesky callers once and for all. Loan offer. Tell them you just filed for bankruptcy and ask, "How long can I keep the money? Do I have to pay it back like the other money I borrowed before my bankruptcy? How are you today?" Respond with, "Why do you want to know?" Or go on a mini rant, "Well, my sciatica is acting up, my dog just died. Thanks for asking though." Name game. When they say, "I'm Joe from XYZ Company," ask them to spell their name, the company name, and where it's located. Keep the questions coming. For the guys, Telemarketer, "Hi, I'm Judy from XYZ. You, pause for effect, "Okay, what are you wearing?" Surprise them with excitement. "Judy, is that you? I can't believe it. How have you been?" Watch them squirm. Say "no" repeatedly. Try to say "no" over and over with different tones and rhythms until they hang up. 4 MCI callers. "I don't have any friends. Would you be my friend? Wanna go grab dinner tonight? What's your favorite color? Rug cleaner. Can you get blood out? What about goat blood, human blood, chicken blood? Bone fragments." This one's a classic. The marriage proposal. Let them pitch their offer, then when they ask you to buy, say, "Will you marry me?" Watch them panic. Work buddies. "Hey, I work for Watertronics too. Where are you calling from?" "Oh wait, Company policy says you can't sell to employees, right? And of course, the Seinfeld classic. Tell them you're busy and ask for their phone number so you can call them back. When they refuse, say, "Yeah, now you know how I feel." If you've got any other fun telemarketer tricks, drop them in the comments. Let's make these calls a little less annoying and a lot more entertaining. Paddy bought a camel from a farmer for $100. The farmer agreed to deliver the camel the next day. In the morning he drove up and said, "Sorry son, but I have some bad news. The camel's died." Paddy replied, "Well, just give me my money back then." The farmer said, "Can't do that. I've already spent it." Paddy said, "Okay then, just bring me the dead camel." The farmer asked, "What are you going to do with him?" Paddy said, "I'm going to raffle him off." The farmer said, "You can't raffle a dead camel." Paddy said, "Sure I can. Watch me. I just won't tell anybody he's dead." A month later, the farmer met up with Paddy and asked, "What happened with that dead camel?" Paddy said, "I raffled him off. I sold 500 tickets at $2 each and made a profit of $8.98 foot." The farmer said, "Didn't anyone complain?" Paddy said, "Just the guy who won. So I gave him his $2 back." A wife had been asking her husband to fix a few things around the house. One day, she complained, "Honey, the grass is way too high. Can you cut it?" The husband, looking frustrated, replied, "What do I look like to you? A landscaper." The next day, the sink started dripping, and she asked him, "The faucet's leaking, can you fix it?" His reply, rolling his eyes, was, "What do I look like to you? A plumber." 2 days later, the light bulb went out in the kitchen. She sighed and asked, "Honey, can you change this light bulb?" He threw up his hands and grumbled, "What am I, an electrician?" Days later, the husband came home from work to find the lawn mowed, the faucet repaired, and the light bulb replaced. Surprised, he asked, "What happened here?" His wife, smiling, replied, "Well, our new neighbor came over and took care of everything." Curious, he asked, "How did you pay him?" She shrugged. "He gave me 2 options, bake him a cake or have love with him." Relieved, the husband asked, "Okay, so what kind of cake did you bake him?" The wife smirked. "What do you think I am, Betty Crocker?" 2 young guys appear in court after being arrested for smoking dope. The judge says, "You seem like nice young men, and I'd like to give you a second chance instead of jail time. I want you to go out this weekend and try to convince others of the evils of drug use. I'll see you back in court Monday." On Monday, the judge asks the first guy, "How did you do over the weekend?" "Well, Your Honor, I persuaded 17 people to give up drugs forever." 17 people? That's wonderful. How did you do it?" "I used a diagram, Your Honor. I drew 2 circles like this. Then I told them that the big circle is your brain before drugs and the small circle is your brain after drugs." "That's admirable," says the judge. Then he turns to the second guy. "And how did you do?" "Well, Your Honor, I persuaded 156 people to give up drugs forever." "Wow," says the judge. 156 people. How did you manage to do that?" "Well, I used a similar diagram," the guy says. "I drew 2 circles like this. Then I pointed to the little circle and said, 'This is your asshole before prison.'" A man, completely drunk, stumbles up to a fairground rifle booth and slaps down his money. The booth operator hesitates. "Sir, in your state, I can't let you shoot. It's dangerous." But the drunk insists, so the operator reluctantly hands him a rifle. The man wobbles, tries to focus, and fires 3 shots. When the booth operator checks the target, he's stunned, 3 bullseyes. The grand prize is a 68-piece glassware set, but thinking the drunk has no clue what's happening, the operator hands him a consolation prize, a turtle. The drunk stares at it, nods, and stumbles away. An hour later, he comes back, even drunker. He insists on another round, fires 3 shots, and bullseye, bullseye, bullseye. Another turtle. A while later, he returns yet again, barely able to stand. Same routine, same result, 3 bullseyes. This time, an onlooker notices. That's incredible! He hit the bullseye 3 times. The booth operator, now out of luck, sighs and says, "Sir, you've won the grand prize, a beautiful 68-piece glassware set." The drunk squints at him and slurs, "Glassware? I don't want any bloody glasses. Just give me another one of those crusty meat pies." While trying to avoid hitting a dog, I lost control of my two-wheeler and tumbled into a ditch by the side of the road. Struggling to crawl out, I was relieved when a beautiful woman stopped her car and rushed to help me. "Are you okay?" she asked with genuine concern. "I think so," I replied, brushing the dirt off as I stood up. She smiled warmly and said, "Come, get in my car. My place is just a few blocks away. You can clean up there, and I'll make sure you're not hurt." "That's very kind of you," I said hesitantly, "but I'm not sure my wife would like that." "Oh, don't be silly, I'm a nurse," she insisted. "I need to check for injuries and treat them properly." She was both persuasive and kind, so I finally agreed, though I added, "I still think my wife won't be happy about this." At her place, she helped me clean up and carefully examined me to ensure I wasn't seriously injured. Afterward, she offered me a drink. We ended up having a couple of drinks, but the guilt started weighing on me. Finally, I said, "I feel much better now, but I should really go. My wife is going to be furious." She laughed and reassured me, "Don't worry. Stay a little longer. She won't find out. She's probably waiting for you at home, right?" I hesitated for a moment before replying, "Well, not exactly. She's still in the ditch." On the very first morning after the wedding, chaos erupted in the house. The groom came storming out of the bedroom, yelling, "Mom, I caught the maid sneaking around the room, and look, she even has my wife's wedding ring in her hand." Everyone rushed to see what was going on. The young woman stood there, confused, still drying her face with a towel. His mother pulled him aside quietly, looked him in the eyes, and whispered, "Son, that's not the maid. That's your wife. She just washed her face and hasn't put on makeup yet."